They laughed at the poor cleaner, not knowing he's a secret billionaire testing them. My name is Robert Chen, and I'm worth $2.8 billion. For the past 6 months, I've been working as a janitor at my own company's headquarters, mopping floors and emptying trash cans while wearing a name tag that says Bob. Nobody knows who I am, not the executives making decisions in my boardroom, not the managers treating me like I'm invisible, not the employees who step over my mop bucket without a second glance. They see a 60-year-old Asian man in a janitor's uniform, and they make assumptions. Those assumptions have revealed more about my company's culture and the people I've entrusted to run it than any quarterly report ever could. This is the story of what I discovered when I became invisible in my own empire. And trust me, what I found was far worse than I ever imagined. Let me start at the beginning. I founded Chen Technologies 40 years ago with $5,000 and an idea for better data encryption software. I built it into a global cybersecurity empire worth billions, employing over 15,000 people across 30 countries. For decades, I was the face of the company, keynote speeches, magazine covers, CNBC interviews. Robert Chen, the immigrant success story. The self-made billionaire who came to America with nothing and built everything. But 2 years ago, I stepped back. I was 58, tired, ready to let the next generation lead. I promoted my COO, Marcus Bennett, to CEO. I appointed a new board of directors. I moved to Chairman Emeritus, a fancy title that basically meant I showed up for quarterly meetings and collected dividends. I thought I was leaving the company in good hands. I was wrong. The warning signs started 6 months ago. Employee satisfaction scores were dropping. Turnover was increasing, especially among longtime staff. Quarterly reports looked good, profits up, stock price rising, but something felt off. I started asking questions, attending meetings unannounced, talking to middle managers, and what I heard concerned me. The culture was changing. The values I'd built the company on, respect, integrity, treating everyone with dignity, were being eroded. But when I confronted Marcus about it, he dismissed my concerns. Bob, with all due respect, you've been out of day-to-day operations for 2 years. The business world has changed. We need to be lean, efficient, competitive. That means making hard choices about personnel and culture. Hard choices shouldn't mean abandoning our values. Values don't show up on balance sheets. Profits do. And profits are up 30% since I took over. At what cost? At the cost of sentimentality. You built a great company, Bob. Let me run it my way. I didn't like his answer, but I also didn't have concrete evidence that anything was wrong, just a feeling, whispers, vague complaints. So I decided to investigate, not as Robert Chen, billionaire chairman, but as someone who could see the company the way most employees did. I decided to become a janitor. The plan was simple. I contacted the janitorial services company we contracted, ProClean Services, and arranged to be hired as a temporary cleaner. I used my middle name, Peter, and my mother's maiden name, Wong. Peter Wong, 60 years old, immigrant worker, basic English. I created a complete backstory. I'd recently arrived from Hong Kong, needed work, had custodial experience. The ProClean manager barely looked at my application. You start Monday. Night shift, 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. Chen Technologies headquarters. You'll be cleaning executive offices, conference rooms, break rooms. Keep your head down, do your work, don't bother anyone. Yes, sir, thank you, sir. Just like that, Robert Chen disappeared, and Peter Wong, janitor, was born. I bought a used Honda Civic, paid cash, registered under a shell company. I rented a studio apartment in Queens under Peter Wong's name. I bought work clothes from Walmart, plain blue uniforms, cheap shoes, a worn backpack. My wife Margaret thought I was insane. Robert, you're 60 years old. You're worth billions. Why are you doing this? Because I need to know the truth about what's happening in my company. And the only way to get truth is to be invisible. You could hire investigators, consultants, people whose job is to find this information. People lie to investigators. They perform for consultants, but nobody performs for the janitor. Nobody even sees the janitor. This is dangerous. What if something happens to you? What if you get hurt? I'll be careful. And Margaret, I need this. I need to know if the company I built still reflects the values I built it on, or if it's become something else. She wasn't happy, but she understood. Margaret had been there from the beginning, had watched me build Chen Technologies from nothing. She knew how much it meant to me. Promise me you'll be safe, and that you'll stop if it becomes too much. I promise. My first night as Peter Wong was humbling. I showed up at 6 p.m., wearing my uniform, carrying my ID badge that identified me as contracted cleaning staff. The lobby security guard, someone who'd greeted Mr. Chen respectfully for 20 years, looked right through me. Cleaning crew. Yes, sir. Sign in here. Your supervisor is on the 4th floor. I signed the logbook as Peter Wong. The guard didn't even glance at my face. To him, I was just another invisible worker. My supervisor was Rita, a tired-looking woman in her 50s, who'd been managing ProClean's crew at Chen Technologies for a decade. You're the new guy, Peter. Yes, ma'am. Your English is okay. Yes, ma'am, I understand good. Fine, here's your cart. You'll be covering floors 12 through 15, executive offices. Here's the protocol. She handed me a laminated sheet. Vacuum all carpets, empty all trash, wipe down all surfaces, clean all glass, restock bathrooms, do not touch anything on desks, do not read any documents, do not interrupt anyone working late. You're invisible, understand? Understand, invisible. Good questions. No, ma'am. Then get to work. You have 8 hours to clean 4 floors. Don't waste time. I pushed my cart to the elevator and headed to the 12th floor, where, as Robert Chen, I'd had my office for 30 years. The doors opened to a floor I knew intimately, but now saw differently, through the eyes of someone nobody noticed. The first night, I learned what invisibility really meant. I was vacuuming the hallway when 3 executives walked past, deep in conversation. They didn't pause, didn't acknowledge me, just talked right over the vacuum noise like I wasn't there. Telling you, the layoffs are happening next quarter. Bennett's already identified 1,200 positions to eliminate. Which departments? Customer service mostly, tech support. He wants to outsource everything to the Philippines, cut costs by 40%. What about quality? Those teams are good. Bennett doesn't care about quality. He cares about margins. Fire the expensive American workers, hire cheap overseas labor, pocket the difference. They laughed and moved on. I stood there, vacuum in hand, processing what I just heard. 1,200 layoffs. Outsourcing customer service. The department I'd always insisted should stay domestic, should be staffed by people who understood our customers. Marcus hadn't mentioned any of this in our board meetings. I kept cleaning, kept listening. In the conference room, I emptied the trash and overheard 2 managers on a late call. We can't meet those targets, they're impossible. Then work your team harder. Bennett wants results, not excuses. My team is already working 60-hour weeks. People are burning out. Then fire the ones who can't keep up and hire people who can. Bennett's made it clear, you're either performing or you're gone. I wiped down the conference table and moved on. In the break room, I restocked the coffee station while a group of junior employees vented. Did you see the executive bonuses announced today? Marcus Bennett got $8 million. $8 million, while he's telling us there's no budget for raises. It's bullshit. We're doing the actual work while executives get richer. What are you going to do? Complain and get fired? I'm looking for another job. I can't work for a company that treats employees like this. I listened to conversation after conversation, floor after floor, and a picture emerged of a company I barely recognized. The Chen Technologies I'd built was founded on respect for employees, fair wages, good benefits, work-life balance. I'd always believed that if you treated people well, they'd do great work. But under Marcus Bennett's leadership, that had changed. The focus was solely on profits. Employees were expenses to be minimized. Loyalty meant nothing. People were disposable. And nobody thought twice about discussing it in front of the janitor. Over the following weeks, I discovered the full extent of what was happening. The layoffs were real. Marcus had a plan to eliminate 1,200 positions over the next year, mostly long-time employees with higher salaries. He'd replace them with cheaper contractors and overseas workers. He was also manipulating performance reviews. Good employees were being rated as underperforming to justify firings and deny bonuses. Meanwhile, executives who hit profit targets, regardless of how they did it, were rewarded lavishly. One night, I was cleaning Marcus's office when I found a document in his trash, a memo to department heads. Effective immediately, implement stricter performance standards. Goal: increase voluntary resignations by 30% to avoid severance costs. Make work conditions difficult enough that employees quit rather than being fired. He was deliberately creating a hostile work environment to force people out. I photographed the document with my phone and kept cleaning. But the worst discovery wasn't the business practices, it was the culture. The way executives treated people they considered beneath them was appalling. I watched a VP scream at an assistant for bringing him the wrong coffee order, threw the cup at her, made her clean it up, called her incompetent. I saw a director make racist jokes about overseas contractors, mocking their accents and calling them cheap labor that knows their place. I watched managers take credit for their team's work while blaming employees for any failures. And I saw how they treated people like me, the cleaning crew, the security guards, the cafeteria workers, like we were furniture, like we didn't exist. One night I was mopping the hallway when Marcus himself walked past with several board members. They were laughing, talking loudly. Marcus didn't even glance at me, just walked around my mop bucket and kept talking. The beauty of it is, the old man never comes into the office anymore. Chen's completely checked out. As long as the quarterly numbers look good, he doesn't ask questions. I've got complete control. What if he figures out what you're doing? He won't. Robert Chen built his fortune 40 years ago. He's out of touch, irrelevant. He doesn't understand modern business. By the time he realizes what's happening, I'll have transformed this company so completely he won't recognize it. They laughed and walked into the conference room. I stood there, mop in hand, invisible to the man I'd trusted to run my company. The man who was destroying everything I'd built. But it wasn't all bad. In the darkness, I found light. There were good people still working at Chen Technologies. People who remembered the original values. People who were fighting to maintain integrity despite the toxic culture from the top. I met them as Peter Wong, janitor. Like Jennifer Park, a department manager who stayed late every night, not because she was forced to, but because she cared about her team. I'd clean her office while she worked and she'd always say, "Thank you, Peter. I appreciate your hard work." Simple words, but she said them with genuine respect. She saw me. One night she was particularly stressed. I was emptying her trash when she sighed heavily. "Sorry," she said. "Bad day, don't mind me." "Is okay," I said in my Peter Wong accent. "Everyone have bad days sometimes." She smiled sadly. "Yeah, lately it's been a lot of bad days. This company is changing, not for the better." You work here long time. 15 years, I used to love it. Mr. Chen, the founder, he built something special, but now, she shook her head. Now it's just about money, not about people. Maybe Mr. Chen come back, fix things. I don't know, I heard he's basically retired. And honestly, even if he wanted to fix things, it might be too late. The culture is so toxic now. Good people are leaving. The ones staying are the ones who embrace the nastiness. You stay. I stay because I have a team counting on me. 20 people who need their jobs, who believe in the work we do. I won't abandon them. But I won't lie, I'm looking for other opportunities. For all of us. I nodded and continued cleaning. People like Jennifer were why I needed to act. They deserved better than what Marcus Bennett had turned my company into. There were others too. David Rodriguez, an IT specialist who volunteered his time to teach coding to underprivileged kids on weekends. I'd overhear him on late-night calls, patiently explaining technical concepts to kids who'd never be able to afford Chen Technologies services otherwise. Maria Santos, a customer service rep who'd been written up for spending too much time helping an elderly customer navigate our software. She'd ignored the warning and kept helping anyway because it was the right thing to do. Tom Wheeler, a security guard who treated everyone with dignity. He learned all the cleaning crew's names, asked about our families, brought donuts on Friday nights. These people embodied the values I'd founded Chen Technologies on, and they were being punished for it. Jennifer Park had been passed over for promotion 3 times despite excellent performance reviews, because she wasted time on employee development instead of just pushing for metrics. David Rodriguez was on a performance improvement plan because he'd used company computers for his volunteer teaching program. Maria Santos had been moved to night shift, effectively a demotion, as punishment for helping customers too much. Tom Wheeler had been written up for fraternizing with cleaning staff. The good people were being driven out, the ruthless ones were being promoted. And nobody was stopping it because nobody with power cared. Except nobody knew that someone with power was watching. 3 months into my time as Peter Wong, things came to a head. I was cleaning the executive break room when I overheard Marcus on a phone call. Yes, the board meeting is next week. I'll present the restructuring plan then. Chen will rubber stamp it like he always does. He doesn't pay attention anymore. What about employee pushback? There won't be any. The people who'd complain are being systematically removed. By next quarter, this company will be full of people who know how to keep their heads down and do what they're told. And Chen really has no idea what you're doing. Chen is a relic. He built this company on soft principles, treating employees well, maintaining relationships, all that sentimental garbage. I'm building it on what actually matters, shareholder value. Once I've completed the transformation, the board will see that my way is better, and if Chen doesn't like it, they'll push him out completely. I stopped wiping the counter. Marcus was planning to push me out of my own company. The beauty is, Marcus continued, I've been documenting every instance where Chen's old-fashioned approach has cost us money. Every time he's advocated for employee benefits over profits. Every time he's pushed back on aggressive expansion. I'm building a case that he's a liability, that his leadership is holding us back. When will you make your move? Next year, once the restructuring is complete and profits are up 50%. The board will see that my way works. They'll vote Chen out and make me chairman, and then this company will finally be mine completely. I finished cleaning the break room and left. It was time for Robert Chen to come back. The next day, I didn't show up for my night shift at Chen Technologies. Instead, I called an emergency board meeting. As chairman, I had the authority to do that. The board members were surprised. I rarely used that authority, but they assembled the following afternoon. I walked into the boardroom as Robert Chen. Tailored suit, expensive watch, every inch the billionaire founder. The contrast to Peter Wong couldn't have been more stark. Marcus was already there, looking annoyed. "Bob, what's this about? I have a schedule." "Sit down, Marcus." Something in my tone made him comply. I looked around the table. 8 board members plus Marcus. Some I'd appointed myself. Some had been added at Marcus's recommendation. All of them looked impatient, like I was wasting their time. "Thank you all for coming on short notice. I'm calling this meeting because I've discovered disturbing information about how this company is being run." Marcus leaned back. "Bob, if this is about your concerns from months ago, I thought we'd resolved." "I'm not talking about concerns, Marcus. I'm talking about facts. Facts I gathered myself over the past 3 months." I pulled out a folder and began distributing documents. Bank records showing massive executive bonuses while employee raises were frozen. Performance review data showing systematic downgrading of loyal employees. The memo about making work conditions difficult to force resignations. "For the past 3 months," I said, "I've been working as a janitor in this building." The room erupted. "What? That's impossible." "Bob, are you feeling okay?" "I'm feeling perfectly clear," I said calmly. "I created a false identity, got hired by our cleaning contractor, and spent 90 days working night shifts in our headquarters, cleaning your offices, emptying your trash, listening to what people say when they think nobody important is around." Marcus had gone pale. That's insane. You spied on your own company." "I observed my company through the eyes of the people who are invisible to you. The janitors, the security guards, the low-level employees you don't bother to see. And what I discovered is that the company I built, a company founded on respect, integrity, and treating people with dignity, has been systematically transformed into something I don't recognize." I pulled out my phone and played audio recordings. Marcus yelling at an assistant, directors making racist jokes, managers discussing plans to manipulate employees out of the company. Then I played the recording of Marcus's phone call, the one where he discussed pushing me out. The room was dead silent. "Marcus," I said quietly, "you took the trust I placed in you and used it to destroy everything I built. You saw employee well-being as weakness. You treated loyalty as liability. You turned a company that people were proud to work for into a place people dream of escaping." "The profits are up 30%, Marcus protested. "Stock price is at an all-time high. I've delivered results." "You've delivered short-term gains at the cost of long-term sustainability. You've driven out institutional knowledge. You've destroyed morale. You've created a culture of fear. Yes, profits are up now, but you've gutted the company's soul. And in 3 years, when all your best people are gone and you're left with a shell of yes men and beaten-down survivors, those profits will evaporate." "This is ridiculous. You can't fire me over this. I have a contract." "Your contract has a termination clause for violation of company values. You've violated every value this company was founded on. You're fired, effective immediately." "You can't do this. I'll sue." "Sue away. I have 3 months of documentation, audio recordings, witness statements, video from security cameras showing how you treat people. You'll lose and you'll be publicly humiliated in the process. Or you can leave quietly with a minimal severance and sign an NDA. Your choice." Marcus looked around the table for support. The board members who'd been loyal to him were suddenly very interested in their notes. "This isn't over," Marcus said, standing. "You're a dinosaur, Chen. Your way of doing business is dead. This company will fail without me." "We'll see," I said. "Security will escort you out." As if on cue, Tom Wheeler entered the boardroom. Tom, who'd been written up for being too friendly with the cleaning staff. He smiled slightly when he saw me. "Mr. Wheeler, please escort Mr. Bennett from the building. and ensure he returns his access cards and company property. "With pleasure, Mr. Chen," Tom said. Marcus grabbed his briefcase and stormed out, Tom following calmly behind. After Marcus left, I addressed the board. "I'm resuming active leadership of Chen Technologies, effective immediately. We'll be implementing several major changes. First, all planned layoffs are canceled. We're not firing 1,200 people to juice profits. Second, we're conducting a full review of recent performance evaluations and terminations. Anyone who was pushed out unfairly will be offered their job back with back pay. Third, we're implementing new employee satisfaction metrics as a key performance indicator. From now on, how we treat people matters as much as quarterly profits. Fourth, executive compensation will be tied not just to financial performance, but to employee retention, satisfaction, and cultural metrics. Fifth, I'll be conducting regular, undercover sessions at all levels of the company, not to spy, but to ensure we're maintaining the values we claim to uphold." One board member raised his hand. "Bob, with all respect, this is going to hurt short-term profits. The market won't like it." "Then the market will adjust. I founded this company on principles that work long-term even if they're costly short-term. If shareholders don't like it, they can sell their stock. I still control 40% of shares, my way or the highway." Another board member: "What about the directors and managers who have been implementing Bennett's policies? What happens to them?" "They have 30 days. 30 days to prove they can lead with integrity and respect. Those who embrace the change stay. Those who don't will be replaced." I looked around the table. "Gentlemen, ladies, I understand that modern business culture often treats employees as disposable resources. I understand that quarterly profits and share prices dominate thinking. But I built a multi-billion-dollar company by treating people well, by valuing loyalty, by believing that how you make money matters as much as how much you make. And I'm going to rebuild that culture, even if it costs me every friend on Wall Street." The next morning, I called an all-hands meeting. 15,000 employees, gathered virtually and in person across all our locations. I stood at the front of our main auditorium, looking at hundreds of faces, some confused, some hopeful, some skeptical. "Good morning. For those who don't know me or who have forgotten, I'm Robert Chen. I founded this company 40 years ago. 2 years ago, I stepped back to let new leadership take over. That was a mistake." I paused, letting that sink in. "For the past 3 months, I've been working as a janitor in our headquarters. At night, using a fake name, invisible to everyone. I did this because I'd heard troubling things about our culture, and I wanted to see the truth for myself." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. What I discovered broke my heart. This company, the one I built on principles of respect, integrity, and human dignity, had become a place where good people were afraid, where loyalty meant nothing, where employees were seen as expenses to minimize rather than assets to value. I saw Jennifer Park in the crowd. She looked stunned. Marcus Bennett is no longer with the company. Neither are several other executives who embraced his approach. We're making a change. We're going back to the values that built Chen Technologies. I pulled out a document. This is a memo Marcus wrote about making work conditions difficult to force resignations. This is the approach he took: make people miserable so they quit, and we avoid severance costs. I tore the document in half. That ends now. Here's the new approach. We hire good people. We treat them well. We pay them fairly. We respect their contributions. We give them the tools and support to do great work. And in return, they build great things. That's how I built this company the first time. That's how we'll rebuild it now. But I can't do it alone. I need people who believe in these principles. People who want to work for a company that values them. People willing to call out bad behavior when they see it, regardless of who's doing it." I looked directly at Jennifer Park. I'm promoting Jennifer Park to Senior Vice President of People and Culture. Her first priority is establishing employee councils in every department, places where people can raise concerns, suggest improvements, and hold leadership accountable. Jennifer looked shocked. People around her were applauding. I'm also establishing an anonymous hotline, managed by an external firm, where anyone can report abuse, discrimination, or violations of our values. Reports will be investigated thoroughly, and there will be zero tolerance for retaliation. To everyone who's been treated poorly, who's been undervalued, who's considered leaving because the culture became toxic, I'm sorry. I stepped away when you needed leadership. I trusted the wrong person. I let this happen, but I'm back now and I'm committed to making this right. And to anyone who thinks these changes are soft or naive, who believes we should focus solely on profits at the expense of people, I invite you to leave. Pursue that philosophy somewhere else, because Chen Technologies was built on something different, something better, and we're going back to that foundation. The applause was deafening. The rebuilding wasn't easy. It took months, years actually. We lost some employees, the ones who'd thrived under Marcus's cutthroat culture. Good riddance. But we kept the good ones. People like Jennifer, David, Maria, Tom. The ones who'd maintained integrity despite the toxic environment. Stock price dipped initially. Wall Street didn't like the increased spending on employee benefits and the canceled layoffs. Analysts called me out of touch and sentimental. But by the end of the first year, something interesting happened. Employee satisfaction scores were up 40%. Turnover dropped to historic lows. Productivity increased because people actually wanted to do good work. Innovation improved because people felt safe taking risks. And profits were up 25%. Not through exploitation, through excellence. Customers noticed the difference. Customer service was better because the people answering phones actually cared. Product quality improved because teams weren't burned out and cutting corners. By year 2, Wall Street changed its tune. Chen Technologies proves that treating employees well is good business, one analyst wrote. No shit, I thought. I kept my promise about staying visible at all levels. Once a quarter, I work a different job in the company. I've been a customer service rep, a cafeteria worker, a delivery driver, a junior programmer. Not undercover anymore. Everyone knows it's me. But it keeps me connected to the reality of what people experience. It keeps leadership honest. And I kept Peter Wong's uniform. It hangs in my office as a reminder. A reminder that people reveal their true character when they think nobody important is watching. A reminder that the most valuable insights come from the people society trains us not to see. A reminder that money and power don't make you important, character does. Last month I was eating lunch in the cafeteria, something I do regularly now, when Tom Wheeler sat down across from me. "Mr. Chen, can I tell you something?" "Of course, Tom." "That day you asked me to escort Marcus Bennett out. That was one of the best days of my career. Not because I enjoyed seeing him fired, but because it proved that good eventually wins. That people like him don't always succeed. People like him. People who think being rich or powerful gives them the right to treat others poorly. Marcus looked through people like me his entire time here. To him, security guards were furniture. But you, even when you had every right to be angry about what he'd done, you were respectful, professional. You proved that success doesn't have to corrupt you. Tom, I spent 3 months as a janitor. I know exactly how people like Marcus treat people they consider beneath them. And I know how people like you treat everyone with dignity regardless of their status. Between the two of you, I know who's more valuable to this company." Tom smiled. "You know what the crew talks about. The cleaning staff, the security guards, the cafeteria workers. We talk about how this is the only major company where the CEO knows our names. where leadership says good morning and thank you, where we're treated like we matter. You do matter. I know, but most places don't act like it. Chen Technologies does, and it's because you remember what it's like to be invisible. I'm writing this 3 years after my time as Peter Wong. 3 years since I discovered what my company had become and decided to fix it. People often ask me, was it worth it, going undercover, risking your dignity, revealing yourself that way? Absolutely. Because that experience taught me things I never would have learned from board reports or consultant presentations. I learned that people's true character shows when they think nobody important is watching. I learned that the people society trains us not to see, janitors, security guards, service workers, often have more integrity than the executives in corner offices. I learned that respect isn't about position or wealth. It's about recognizing the humanity in everyone. I learned that you can't lead effectively if you're isolated from the reality your employees experience. And I learned that rebuilding is harder than preventing decay, but it's never too late if you're willing to do the work. Chen Technologies today is worth more than it was under Marcus Bennett's leadership. But more importantly, it's a place where people want to work, where talent seeks us out, where employees stay for decades because they feel valued. We're not perfect. We still have problems, conflicts, difficult decisions, but we face them from a foundation of respect and integrity, and that makes all the difference. Last week I gave a speech at a business school. A student asked, "Mr. Chen, do you recommend other CEOs work undercover in their companies?" Not necessarily undercover, I said, but I absolutely recommend that every leader spend time experiencing their company from the bottom up. Work a day in customer service. Shadow a junior employee. Eat lunch in the cafeteria, not the executive dining room. Understand what daily reality looks like for the people who make your company function. Because here's the truth, the view from the top is comfortable but distorted. From the executive suite, everything looks fine. Reports are positive. Metrics are good. Everyone tells you what you want to hear. But the view from the bottom is unfiltered. That's where you see the truth. That's where you understand whether your company's values are real or just words on a website. I spent 3 months mopping floors and emptying trash cans. Those were 3 of the most valuable months of my entire career, because being invisible showed me what's really important. Another student raised her hand. "Do you still have the janitor uniform?" "I do. It's framed in my office, right next to my Forbes cover and my industry awards, because that uniform represents something more valuable than any award: humility, the willingness to be wrong, the courage to see truth even when it's uncomfortable. Every day, when I walk into my office, I see that uniform, and I remember what I learned, that how you treat people when they can't do anything for you reveals who you really are, and that the most dangerous position is the one where everyone tells you you're right and nobody dares tell you you're wrong. Yesterday, I received an email from Maria Santos, the customer service rep who'd been punished for helping customers too much. She's now our Director of Customer Experience. "Mr. Chen," she wrote, "I want to thank you, not just for promoting me, but for creating a place where helping people is valued instead of punished. Under Marcus's leadership, I almost quit. I couldn't work somewhere that treated compassion as a liability, but you changed that. You proved that companies can be successful and decent, that we don't have to choose between profits and principles. Thank you for giving me a place where I can do good work and feel good about it." I replied, "Maria, thank you for staying when things were dark. Thank you for maintaining your integrity when the culture rewarded ruthlessness. You're exactly the kind of person I want building this company. Keep fighting for what's right even when it's hard, especially when it's hard." That's the real measure of success, not the stock price or the quarterly profits. The knowledge that people like Maria have a place to work where their values align with the company's values. I'm 63 years old now, worth slightly less than I was 3 years ago. Those employee benefits and canceled layoffs did cost money, but I sleep better knowing my wealth isn't built on exploitation. People still laugh at stories about the billionaire who worked as a janitor. They think it was a publicity stunt or a quirky experiment. They don't understand that it was an act of survival, saving my company from becoming something monstrous, saving myself from becoming so isolated from reality that I couldn't see what was right in front of me. The best business decision I ever made wasn't developing our encryption technology, or expanding globally, or taking the company public. It was putting on a janitor's uniform and becoming invisible in my own empire. Because sometimes you have to lose everything: status, visibility, respect, to see what really matters. And what really matters isn't the money you make or the power you accumulate. It's whether you treat people with dignity when they can't do anything for you in return. That's the real test of character, and it's a test most people fail when they think nobody important is watching. But someone's always watching, even if it's just the janitor with a mop and bucket. Especially if it's the janitor with a mop and bucket. 3 years later, Chen Technologies isn't just profitable. It's proof that you don't have to choose between success and decency. That treating people well isn't weakness, it's wisdom. That the view from the bottom reveals more truth than any boardroom ever will. And every day, when I walk into my office and see that blue janitor's uniform hanging on my wall, I remember the most important lesson of all. The people you think don't matter are the ones who see everything. And how you treat them when you think nobody's watching reveals exactly who you are. I was a billionaire who became invisible, and in that invisibility, I finally learned to see clearly. And that brings us to the end of Robert Chen's story, a tale not of a billionaire playing at being poor, but of a founder willing to become invisible to save what he'd built. His journey reminds us that true character is revealed not by how we treat those who can help us, but by how we treat those who can't. That the view from the bottom often shows more truth than the view from the top. And that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is make yourself powerless, just to see what people really are. What would you have done in Robert's position? How do you think leaders should stay connected to their employees' reality? And what does it say about our society that service workers are so often invisible? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe for more stories about integrity, leadership, and what really matters in business and life. Thank you for listening. Until next time, remember, people reveal who they really are when they think nobody important is watching. And if you need someone to be important before you treat them with respect, you've already failed the character test.